The Diamond Trap. How the Trophy Wife Fought Back. The Price of a Red Soul. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell. You won't believe the darkness lurking beneath this glamour. The Louboutin heels of Eleanor Sterling clicked against the marble of the Langham Hotel, London, like a final gunshot. She'd arrived at the most exclusive charity gala of the season, but not as the humiliated woman everyone expected. Tonight, London's elite would witness a spectacle, the exact moment a betrayed wife transformed into an unstoppable force. 3 months ago, Eleanor discovered her husband, Alistair, wasn't just cheating. He'd turned their entire 8-year marriage into a cruel, public joke. The mistress wasn't a nobody. It was Serafina Thorne, the ruthless heiress to the rival Thorne Global Hotel's fortune, a woman who treated other people's husbands as personal trophies. But Eleanor, 32, had a terrifying secret neither Alistair nor Serafina knew. A secret that would, tonight, destroy them both forever. The guests whispered, the champagne flutes raised in mocking toasts, and in the center of the ballroom, Alistair and Serafina danced as if they owned the world. They had no idea Eleanor had already won the game before they even knew they were playing. Like this video, if you believe revenge is a dish best served in a designer gown. The Golden Cage of Belgravia, the townhouse in Belgravia, had the kind of quiet, understated elegance that only old money could buy. Eleanor woke up that September morning as she had for the last 8 years, alone, in a bed that felt as cold as a tomb. She was beautiful, an ex-international model, but her eyes held a profound sadness. Her routine was a ritual of expensive despair. The Carrara marble bathroom, the $500 La Mer products, the Chanel suit. Downstairs, her housekeeper, Mrs. Davis, offered a familiar, pitying look, a look Eleanor had come to despise. It was the same mix of pity and smug superiority she saw in every Mayfair wife, a look that said, "Poor thing, she doesn't know she's the joke of the city." But Eleanor knew. She'd known for months. The phone rang. It was Chloe, her only true friend, a bohemian writer living in Notting Hill. "Ellie, have you seen the photos?" Chloe's voice was tight. "They're everywhere. Alistair and her, kissing in the lobby of the Savoy like teenagers. They're not even pretending to be discreet anymore." Serafina Thorne. Not just a mistress, but a corporate declaration of war. A 25-year-old heiress who decided Eleanor's husband was her next conquest. "I'm here," Eleanor replied, her calm surprising even herself. "You know what? I think it's time I went shopping." "Shopping, now?" Eleanor smiled for the first time in months. It wasn't a happy smile. It was something far more dangerous. "Yes, Chloe. It's the perfect time to buy armor." That afternoon, Eleanor didn't buy clothes. She bought weapons. A lethal Saint Laurent dress, Hermès accessories that screamed silent power, Van Cleef & Arpels jewels that cost a lifetime's earnings. But her most crucial purchase was made in a discreet office near Canary Wharf. She bought information. The kind of information that destroys empires. Pause and consider. At what point does keeping up appearances become a form of self-betrayal? Share your thoughts below, because Eleanor Sterling had a secret. Before marrying Alistair, before becoming a trophy wife, she'd been one of London's most brilliant forensic financial investigators. She had tracked down hidden fortunes and unmasked multi-million-pound frauds. After years of playing the fool, Eleanor had decided to be who she really was again. That night, Alistair stumbled in after midnight, reeking of Serafina's perfume. Eleanor was waiting, sitting on the velvet sofa, reading The Count of Monte Cristo. "Aren't you going to say anything?" Alistair asked, frustrated at not getting the tears he craved. "About what, darling?" she asked with a chilling tranquility. Alistair cleared his throat. "We both know this isn't working, Maybe we should talk about the future. The future, yes. Eleanor closed the book. When is the annual Sterling Foundation Gala? Alistair looked confused. 3 months from now. Why? Eleanor stood up, ice in her veins. Because that will be the last time I use your last name in public. She walked out, leaving him utterly stunned. She had exactly what she needed. Time. Time to plan his complete ruin. The humiliation and the blueprint the following weeks were a symphony of public humiliations orchestrated by Alistair and Serafina. First, the charity committee, Eleanor's main social responsibility for years, replaced her with Serafina. Then, at a British embassy dinner, Serafina deliberately belittled Eleanor's current season designer dress, calling it vintage, before publicly announcing she was taking over all of Eleanor's wifely duties. Alistair finally spoke to Eleanor, his eyes cold and empty. It's been over a long time, Eleanor. We didn't want you to find out this way, but Serafina slithered closer to him, completing the sentence. But life is too short to live a lie. Eleanor looked around the silent room, the eyes of the city's elite fixed on her. She had been publicly dismantled. I understand, she said, her voice robotic. If you'll excuse me. She walked out with her head held high, the entire room witnessing her public demise. In the taxi home, Eleanor finally cried, but they were tears of crystallized fury. Because while Alistair and Serafina were busy humiliating her, Eleanor had been busy discovering the true reason for Serafina's seduction. It wasn't love. It was the most elaborate revenge plot Eleanor had ever seen. She opened the files in her study. Documents showed Serafina's father, Lord Thorne, was using his daughter to infiltrate the Sterling Company's secrets. But the deeper truth was, 5 years ago, Alistair had ruined Serafina's younger brother in a brutal Monaco hotel deal. The brother committed suicide. Serafina had sworn to destroy Alistair by making him fall in love with her, betray his family, and then abandoning him at the altar. Eleanor felt a perverse admiration for the plan. It was brilliant. The only problem? Eleanor was collateral damage. Not anymore. The breaking point arrived. A wedding invitation. An engagement party invitation sent directly to Eleanor for Serafina and Alistair at the Langham Hotel, the same place where she and Alistair had celebrated their engagement 8 years prior. That night, something broke inside Eleanor. It wasn't sadness. It was absolute clarity. She was the woman who had built her own fortune, who had dismantled financial schemes that baffled the world's best auditors. Up to here, she told her reflection. It's over. The next 2 weeks were a Hollywood-worthy transformation. Eleanor contacted her old firm, Thomas Whitmore, the feared forensic accountant, Sarah Chen, the divorce lawyer, Marcus Kellerman, the investigative journalist. The fairy tale is over, Eleanor told Thomas. How much do you remember about destroying family empires? Everything. Thomas laughed. When do we start? What do you think is the biggest mistake people make when they seek revenge? Let us know in the comments. The final curtain call. The night before the party, Eleanor prepared like an ancient warrior. She wore a bespoke Dior gown and diamond earrings inherited from her grandmother, a woman who survived 2 world wars. Are you sure about this, darling? Chloe asked. We could just go to Bali and forget these idiots exist. Chloe, my love. Eleanor smiled. I've spent 8 years being the perfect wife. Tonight, London is going to meet the real Eleanor Sterling. The Langham Hotel ballroom glittered. The creme de la creme of London society was there, anticipating the final humiliation of Eleanor Sterling. She walked in, and the murmurs stopped. She was magnificent. She approached Alistair and Serafina, who were basking in the glow of the spotlight. Alistair, Serafina, she said, her voice cutting the conversations like a silver knife. Congratulations on the engagement, Alistair stammered. Serafina, regaining her composure, smiled sweetly. Eleanor, How brave of you to come. It is so vintage of you." "Brave?" Eleanor repeated, her smile never faltering. "Yes, I suppose I am. And you know what else I am, Serafina? Intelligent." The tension was palpable. "Ladies and gentlemen," Eleanor said, raising her voice for the entire room. "You'd like to hear a fascinating story, wouldn't you? It's about true love, family loyalty, and justice." The room fell silent. "5 years ago," Eleanor continued, "my husband ruined a young hotelier in Monaco, leading to his suicide. That young man was Philippe Moreau, the younger brother of our dear Serafina Thorne." Pure panic flashed in Serafina's eyes. Alistair looked at her as if for the first time. "Serafina has spent 5 years planning her revenge," Eleanor announced. "She seduced Alistair, made him betray his family, steal from his own charity foundation, and sell family secrets to her father, all to destroy him in the most cruel way possible." The room erupted in whispers. Eleanor pulled a sealed envelope from her clutch and handed it to Lord Thorne, Serafina's father, who watched in growing horror. "Here is all the evidence of your daughter's treachery, Lord Thorne. Every recorded conversation, every stolen document, everything you need to realize your own daughter has been playing a much more dangerous game than you authorized." She then turned to Alistair. "And here is the evidence of all your illegal activities, darling husband. Your family will be fascinated." Eleanor then looked directly at Serafina. "Serafina, tell Alistair your real plan. Tell him how you plan to leave him at the altar tomorrow. Tell him about the press release you already wrote, revealing exactly why you seduced him." Serafina's defiance flared. "He killed my brother." "Yes," Eleanor agreed. "He did. And you used me as collateral damage in your personal war. I respect the loyalty, but I don't respect the casualty." Eleanor walked to the center of the room. A waiter brought her a glass of champagne. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced, raising the glass, "I'd like to propose a toast to Alistair, who discovered that true love can make a man betray everything he ever valued. To Serafina, who showed that determination can lead you exactly where you want to be." She paused dramatically. "And to me, who just realized that being underestimated is the greatest superpower a woman can possess." She drank the champagne in one elegant gulp. "Alistair," she said, facing her defeated husband, "the divorce papers will be on your desk Monday. My lawyers have been generous considering the evidence of your illegal activities." "We can talk about this," Alistair pleaded. "Oh, darling," Eleanor laughed, a sound like glass shattering. "We already solved it. You made the choices. I'm just accepting them." She turned and walked out, her Louboutins echoing the finality of her victory. Behind her, Alistair yelled her name. She didn't stop. If you're rooting for Eleanor, show her some love by liking this video. And if you want more miniseries like this, subscribe to the channel. There's much more coming. Meaningful ending. The queen who saved herself 6 months later, Eleanor Sterling, sat on the terrace of her new penthouse in Shoreditch, London's most vibrant and authentic neighborhood. Alistair had lost everything. The family business, the fortune, and Serafina, who abandoned him the moment his ruin was complete. Serafina herself was facing criminal charges, but Eleanor's story was the most interesting. Her exposure of the corruption network catapulted her back into forensic investigation. She opened her own consulting firm, Sterling Forensics, and was more successful and infinitely happier than ever before. She was having coffee with Chloe. "Alistair did me the biggest favor of my life when he betrayed me," Eleanor mused, looking out over the city rooftops. "He forced me to remember who I really was." "And who is the real Eleanor Sterling?" Chloe asked. Eleanor smiled, standing up in her jeans and cotton blouse. She was no longer the perfect, empty wife. She was smart, funny, passionate, and real. "The real difference between revenge and justice, Chloe," she said, grabbing her jacket. "Revenge ties you forever to the person who hurt you. Justice frees you to become who you are truly meant to be. Eleanor's story teaches us a fundamental truth. Nobody can define your worth except you. In a world that constantly tries to diminish us, the most revolutionary act is to refuse to disappear. Eleanor didn't truly get revenge on Alistair and Serafina. She got revenge on the version of herself who had agreed to be less than she was. The question isn't whether you have that strength. The question is, when will you decide to use it? Because, in the end, the best stories aren't about women who found their prince. They're about women who realized they were the queen they had been waiting for. And that, my friends, is a crown no one can ever take away. Epilogue. The new game in town. The air in the Sterling forensics office in the Shard felt charged. Not with panic, but with focused, cool energy. Eleanor, now 33, leaned against the floor-to-ceiling window. The entire panorama of London spread beneath her like a financial chessboard. Her new business was thriving. She was no longer just dealing with messy divorces. She was the cleanup crew for global corporate sabotage. Her clients didn't want revenge. They wanted surgical, untraceable justice, and Eleanor was the sharpest blade in the city. The latest file on her desk wasn't just a case. It was a testament to her new status. The Rothschild Group, a name synonymous with old European wealth, was asking for her help. Their request? To audit and potentially expose a shadowy cartel of art dealers suspected of laundering billions. It was high stakes, high risk, and entirely the new game she was born to play. "The meeting with the Rothschild legal team is set for 10 a.m., said Marcus Kellerman, the investigative journalist who had become her chief of communications and a vital part of her team. He handed her a steaming mug of black coffee, no sugar. "They look terrified, Ellie. They know you don't take cases unless you can win big." Eleanor took the mug, her gaze sharp as she scanned the documents. "Terror is a great motivator, Marcus. It makes people talk." She paused, a genuine smile breaking through her focus. "Remember what Alistair said that night? That he didn't expect me to show up?" Marcus chuckled. "He expected a broken woman in a faded dress. He got a goddess in Dior who brought receipts." "Exactly," Eleanor affirmed. "They underestimated my capacity to change, to adapt. They saw the facade. They never saw the blueprint underneath." She walked back to her desk, sitting down not in a throne, but in the command center of her own making. The diamond ring Alistair gave her was long gone, replaced by the simple, powerful act of building something entirely new and self-owned. She was building her legacy on truth, not lies. Think about it. What is one facade you've let the world see, and what is the blueprint of the powerhouse you truly are? Don't let your power stay hidden. If Eleanor's transformation inspired you to build your own empire, hit the like button and share this story with someone who needs a reminder of their own strength. The first billion-dollar audit. The Obsidian case. The meeting with the Rothschild Group lawyers was a success. They were indeed terrified. But that fear translated into a contract that secured Sterling Forensics' position at the absolute pinnacle of corporate investigation. Eleanor had been tasked with locating $1 billion laundered through rare art and shell companies, a case she nicknamed the Obsidian case. "This is bigger than anything Alex or Serafina could ever dream of, Ellie," Thomas Whitmore, her lead financial analyst, noted during a late-night session, looking at the complex flowcharts projected onto the glass wall. "We're not just tracking money. We're taking down a syndicate." "Exactly," Eleanor said, circling a series of offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. "The beauty of this is that it requires patience and precision, not dramatics. No more Louboutins on marble, Thomas. Just the quiet satisfaction of total victory." She thrived in this world. This was where her intellect, long suppressed by social dinners and charity galas, truly sang. Every number was a clue, every transaction a confession. She was the ghost that haunted the powerful men who thought their secrets were safe. Interactive. Question: if you could choose one superpower, to track every lie, or to track every hidden penny, which would you pick to truly change the world? Comment your choice below. The editor and the truth life wasn't solely defined by spreadsheets. Her blossoming connection with Gabrielle Moreau, the charming chief editor, and, yes, confirmed, no relation to Alistair's family, was the unexpected warmth she hadn't known she needed. Their dates were antithetical to her previous life. They didn't frequent pretentious Mayfair restaurants. They met in dusty used bookstores in Bloomsbury, or argued playfully about literature over simple, perfect pasta in Soho. One evening, after closing a major chapter for her upcoming memoir, The Diamond Trap, Eleanor found Gabriel waiting for her outside the Shard. "You look like you've just signed a treaty," he commented, his dark eyes twinkling as he took her arm. "Something like that," she laughed. "A billion-dollar treaty. It's the Obsidian case, a massive challenge. And you love it," he stated, not as a question, but as a fact. "I do," she admitted. "But what I love more is that I can be completely honest about it with you. No pretense. No need to look like the perfect wife or the grieving victim. I fell for the woman who brought receipts to her own divorce party," Gabriel said, leaning closer. "I'm not interested in the perfect wife. I'm interested in the terrifyingly brilliant woman who saved herself." That night, they didn't talk about money or revenge. They talked about the future, about writing, and about the sheer joy of living an authentic life. Call to action. If you believe that finding true happiness means embracing your true self, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more inspiration and stories that prove strength comes from within. The Unstoppable Legacy. 6 months later, the Obsidian case broke. Eleanor didn't just find the laundered money. She exposed the entire infrastructure of the cartel, leading to international arrests and the recovery of not $1, but $3 billion in stolen assets. The press hailed her as the Queen of Clarity, and Sterling Forensics became the global go-to for corporate integrity. One afternoon, a package arrived at her office. Inside, wrapped in velvet, was an antique compass. No note, but the sender was clearly Alistair. It was a bizarre, final gesture. "What is that?" Marcus asked. "Bewildered." Eleanor turned the compass in her hand. "It's a realization," she said softly. "He finally understood he lost his way, and more importantly, he realized I found mine." She put the compass in her desk drawer, next to the Queen of Spades card she'd kept as a reminder. She didn't need it for direction anymore. She had her own internal compass, set firmly on purpose and self-respect. Final meaningful conclusion. Eleanor's journey teaches us that our greatest betrayals can lead to our greatest liberation. Alistair's infidelity didn't define her. It catalyzed her. She used the destruction of her past life as the foundation for an unstoppable future. Remember, your story is still being written. The obstacles you face today are merely setting the stage for the power you will command tomorrow. Be brilliant, be brave, and never, ever forget the blueprint of the amazing person you are. If you loved this chapter of Eleanor's life, let us know. What challenge should Eleanor take on next? Comment below. Tuyệt vời. Tôi rất vui vì bạn muốn tiếp tục theo dõi hành trình của Eleanor Sterling trong vai trò nữ hoàng điều tra toàn cầu. The Ghost of Monaco. A familiar face in the crosshairs, the success of the Obsidian case brought Eleanor unprecedented visibility and unexpected complications. Her next major client was a formidable Russian oligarch, Nikolai Volkov, who suspected his estranged wife was laundering his assets through a string of properties across the French Riviera. The trail led Eleanor directly back to Monaco, the very location where Alistair had destroyed Seraphina's brother. The irony was palpable. Working on the ground in a sun-drenched villa overlooking the harbor, Eleanor noticed a familiar, haunting connection in the financial reports, a subtle, complex web of shell companies that mirrored the sophisticated deceit of Seraphina's father, Lord Thorne. "This is too clean, too personal," Eleanor muttered to Thomas during a secure video call. "The structure is identical to the Thorne family's old framework. I think Volkov's wife isn't acting alone. I think she's being advised." After weeks of deep digging, a name surfaced as the financial architect behind the complex scheme. Julian Thorne, Lord Thorne's older brother, who had seemingly vanished after the family scandal. Eleanor felt a cold thrill. This wasn't just a random case. It was a chance to sever the last roots of the corruption that had nearly ruined her own life. Interactive. Question: if you were Eleanor, knowing the emotional history, would you pursue a case that brings you back into the orbit of the family that tried to destroy you? Why or why not? Comment your strategy below. The pressure of authenticity. Meanwhile, her relationship with Gabriel Moreau was growing deeper. He was more than a partner. He was her true north, providing an essential grounding outside the high-stakes chaos of her work. However, the pressure of the Obsidian case and the new Monaco investigation was intense. One evening, Gabriel watched her work on her laptop in their cozy flat, surrounded by spreadsheets and classified documents. "You look like you're fighting a war, Ellie," he said, gently pulling her hair back from her face. "I am," she replied, not looking up. "The war against the assumption that powerful men can hide forever." Gabriel quietly closed her laptop. "I love the power you have, Eleanor. I love the mission. But you're allowed to turn off the general for a few hours. You don't have to carry the weight of the financial world all the time." It was a soft reminder, not a demand. Unlike Alistair, who wanted her to be silent and perfect, Gabriel saw her fire and wanted her to protect it, even from herself. He didn't dim her light. He just reminded her that she didn't have to be on stage constantly. Call to action. Don't let your fire burn out. If you love stories about powerful women who find balance, like this video right now, and subscribe to the channel for more content that celebrates strength and self-care. The unexpected ally. The confrontation with Julian Thorne was inevitable. Eleanor set a trap in a high-end auction house in Monte Carlo, knowing Julian was obsessed with a particular piece of stolen art. When Julian, sleek and arrogant, walked into her carefully planned snare, he was shocked to see Eleanor. "The trophy wife," he sneered, regaining his composure quickly. "I heard you traded your Louboutins for a calculator, Mrs. Sterling." "I upgraded, Mr. Thorne," Eleanor corrected, her voice ice cold. "I traded a weak husband for $1 billion consultancy, and I traded a frivolous lifestyle for justice." But the true shock came when, during their tense standoff, a figure emerged from the shadows to join Eleanor's side. It was Seraphina Thorne. After serving a surprisingly short sentence, Seraphina had quietly been trying to rebuild her own life, recognizing her uncle Julian as the toxic influence that had initially corrupted her revenge plan. "Uncle Julian," Seraphina said, her voice devoid of emotion. "You taught me everything I know about accounting fraud, but Eleanor taught me about consequences." Seraphina had decided that her final act of self-redemption was to help Eleanor expose Julian, thereby, finally, truly, cleaning up the mess the Thorne family had made. Eleanor, the victim, had unwittingly created an ally out of her former rival, forging a bond built on mutual respect for one another's ruthless competence. Final meaningful conclusion. Eleanor's journey continues to evolve. She learned that power is not just about winning. It's about choosing who you fight with and why. She moved past simple revenge and embraced restorative justice, turning her past enemies into contributors to her future mission. The most powerful women don't just defeat their rivals, they inspire a change in the game itself. What should Eleanor do next? Should she trust Serafina completely, or is this new alliance a risk? Share your predictions in the comments below. The Queen's Gambit. The unexpected alliance in Monte Carlo. The sight of Serafina Thorne stepping out of the shadows to betray her own uncle, Julian, was the ultimate twist in Eleanor's narrative. Julian's sophisticated laundering ring was dismantled not by a vengeful ex-wife, but by the combined forces of two women he had utterly underestimated. "You've chosen a dangerous side, Serafina," Julian spat, his face contorted by the combined fury of a captured criminal and a betrayed family patriarch. "I chose the side of truth, uncle," Serafina countered, her famous ice-cold demeanor now directed solely at him. "And you made the mistake of thinking revenge was the end goal. Eleanor taught me it's just the beginning of a better one." Eleanor watched the exchange, her mind already 3 steps ahead. She didn't trust Serafina, not fully, but she trusted the deep, visceral hatred Serafina held for the corruption that had ruined her family's name and her own life. She used Serafina, not as a friend, but as a strategic asset. Serafina provided the final, critical documents needed to link Julian's operation directly to the Russian oligarch's wife, ensuring a total, comprehensive victory for Nikolai Volkov. The result was massive. Julian Thorne was arrested, the assets were recovered, and Eleanor's reputation for delivering absolute justice was solidified globally. Interactive question: true or false? The best alliances are often built on mutual interests, not mutual trust. What's your take? Share your philosophical answer in the comments. The return of a ghost. The day Eleanor returned to London, triumphant, a chill ran down her spine. The Queen of Spades card, the symbol of her final, ruthless triumph over Alistair, which she kept in her desk drawer at Sterling Forensics, was gone. "Did you move anything from my desk, Marcus?" she asked Thomas, her voice low and tense. "No, Ellie, nothing. Security is tight. Only authorized personnel," Thomas replied, confused. The mystery was solved later that week. A large, ornate bouquet of black roses arrived at her penthouse. Tucked among the petals was a single, laminated Queen of Spades card and a short, cryptic note. "The game isn't over. You never dealt me the final hand." Alistair, the man who had been utterly ruined, bankrupted, and reduced to a night manager in a provincial hotel, was back. Not to plead, but to play. Eleanor felt a surge of energy, a mix of cold dread and fierce exhilaration. She realized her initial victory over him had been too clean, too fast. She had destroyed his wealth, but she hadn't destroyed his arrogance or his desire for control. Call to action. This is a huge twist. If you think Alistair's return will make the story even better, smash that like button. And subscribe right now so you don't miss the ultimate final showdown, the decision of the heart. The resurgence of the past threatened to overshadow the brilliance of her present. Gabriel noticed her distraction immediately. "The obsidian case is closed, Eleanor," he said one evening, after finding her staring out the window, her mind clearly miles away. "What is it?" Eleanor made a crucial decision: to be authentic. She told him about the black roses, the missing card, and the note from Alistair. She laid out the whole, messy truth. Gabriel listened patiently. "So, the bankrupt ex-husband who you humiliated in front of the entire city is trying to play a final game of checkers with the woman who plays 3-dimensional chess. It's not that simple," Eleanor sighed. "But it is," Gabriel insisted gently. "His power came from your silence. Now, your power comes from your voice and your truth. Do you want to waste your brilliance playing his game, or do you want to elevate the board? Gabriel wasn't trying to rescue her. He was trying to remind her of her own worth. He helped her see that confronting Alistair's little games was a distraction from her purpose. She was a global financial investigator. Alistair was a petty criminal on the run from his own life. Final meaningful conclusion. Eleanor realized that the true test of her transformation wasn't how she handled her enemies, but how she handled distraction. Alistair's final, desperate move was an attempt to pull her back into the small, toxic world of their past marriage. The most profound victory is often the ability to simply refuse to engage. Eleanor Sterling would not give Alistair the dignity of a final battle. She would simply continue to build a life so magnificent, so purposeful, and so far beyond his reach that his petty gestures would become completely irrelevant. What should Eleanor's next move be? Ignore Alistair completely, or have her team send him one final devastating message? Comment your strategy for the ultimate checkmate. Final chapter. The irrelevance of the past. The ultimate checkmate. Eleanor took Gabriel's advice to heart. She refused to play Alistair's game. She did not respond to the black roses or the note. She did not waste Sterling Forensics' invaluable resources tracking down a man whose only power now lay in his ability to distract her. She simply elevated her life so high, so fast, that Alistair's attempts at a comeback became pathetic whispers, drowned out by the roar of her success. Her response was professional, not personal. She had Thomas Whitmore send a single, discreet, legally binding document to Alistair's last known address, a cease and desist order from her lawyers detailing the stiff penalties for any attempt at corporate or personal harassment. The document included a subtle, chilling detail, a footnote mentioning that she was now on retainer for the Volkov Group, an entity Alistair, in his current position, would never dare cross. It was the ultimate checkmate, a message sent not with tears or anger, but with superior legal and financial power. Alistair never contacted her again. The game for him was truly over. Interactive question. If you could send one short, powerful message to your past self about letting go of toxic people, what would it be? Share your wisdom in the comments. The Queen finds her north 2 years after the infamous Gala. Eleanor stood on a stage in New York City at the Global Integrity Summit, delivering the keynote address. Her book, The Diamond Trap, was a New York Times bestseller and had transformed her from a social scandal into a global icon of female empowerment and financial ethics. Her message was simple. The golden cage is only built on your own acceptance of the bars. After her speech, she met Gabriel, who had flown in to support her. As they walked through the bustling city, they talked about their new life together. Gabriel had secured a major publishing deal for her second book, and they were planning to move their primary residence to a quieter, historic townhouse in Greenwich Village, New York. "This is it, isn't it?" Gabriel asked, squeezing her hand. "The life you were supposed to have." Eleanor looked back toward the glittering city, seeing not the towers of finance, but the endless possibilities. "It is," she agreed. "I learned the hard way that the only person who can truly ruin you is yourself, by staying small when you were meant to be large." The scars of the past remained, but they were no longer wounds. They were the blueprint of her resilience. Call to action. Don't let your story end with the struggle. If you feel inspired by Eleanor's final triumph, like this video and subscribe to our channel. We believe every woman can write her own powerful happy ending. A new legacy, Eleanor Valdemar Sterling, now simply Eleanor Sterling, had not only built an empire, but had redefined the meaning of success. It wasn't about the size of her bank account, though it was immense, or the fame she commanded. It was about authenticity, purpose, and the freedom to choose her own battles. She learned that the most profound revenge is living a life so fulfilling, so true to your original self, that the people who hurt you become completely and utterly irrelevant. Her final lesson to the world was this: you are the author of your own dignity. Never give the pen to someone who doesn't respect your worth. The end.